In 2024, I spoke with hundreds of people planning for retirement. In fact, in 2024, I actually personally reviewed over 100 retirement plans. It was like doing a huge accidental social experiment. But as I was sitting down over the holidays thinking about takeaways from last year, I realized that over the course of those hundreds of conversations, there were a few things that almost everyone told me they wished they would have done differently. So in today's video, I am going to share the number one thing that most retirees told me they wished they would have done sooner. Now, by far the most common statement I heard from those conversations was, I wish I had built a guardrails-based retirement plan sooner. Across the board, everyone that came to speak with me in the last year had some variation of a retirement plan already mapped out. The majority of those financial plans were built using a Monte Carlo-based tool. Basically, in a Monte Carlo-based tool, you input assumptions. Things like your retirement age, your expected spending in retirement, how much you have in assets, and then the tool spits you out a score telling you how likely you would be to meet your financial needs through the end of your life given the data you input into the tool. And the feedback about their Monte Carlo-based retirement plans was pretty much universally the same: confusion. People really didn't know how to interpret the number that they were receiving. So let me illustrate this briefly on the screen here. This here is RICP Capital, a common Monte Carlo-based financial planning tool. In this hypothetical scenario here, hypothetical clients Steve and Amanda have about $1.2 million in retirement savings, and they are both 63 and 61 and want to retire tomorrow. Now, in this very simple illustration, they want to live off their $1.2 million in savings, as well as their Social Security income, which you can find here, of $3,600 per month at age 67 for Steve, and $2,900 per month at age 67 for Amanda. Now, based on their respective information and their desired spending that's input in the plan, they have received a 69% Monte Carlo score or probability of success. And the question is, what should they do with that information? Is a 69% score good enough to retire? If it isn't, how much longer would they have to work? And if so, how much money would they have to make? And then once they do stop working, how much could they withdraw each year? Or on the flip side, let's say the 69% was good enough. If they can retire, how much can they withdraw each year? And in what scenarios might they have to go back to work, or maybe even cut spending, and by how much? Now, pretty much again across the board, I was told that the Monte Carlo score cured none of the anxieties people had about retiring. In fact, Monte Carlo scores did not provide confidence when deciding to leave a job permanently, or building a completely new source of income, or figuring out how to spend retirees' time in meaningful ways. And that was exactly why people were coming to talk to me in the hundreds about retirement planning, despite already having a Monte Carlo score and a plan in hand, which was frequently leading to people working longer or spending less in retirement if they were already retired, simply because they had no way to know whether they could do anything otherwise. Now, after talking to hundreds of people about these concepts, I've discovered that the biggest factor in retirement success is not actually how much you have saved. Rather, it's having a clear, detailed plan about how you're going to navigate retirement when things go wrong. And even though videos like the one you're watching now are great for understanding retirement concepts, what's most important is actually learning how to apply these principles to your unique situation, which is exactly why I'm offering you the chance to come to a free class this week, where I'll not only show you the complete framework for confident retirement spending, but my exact system for building your dream retirement as a whole. So just click the link below this video to register for the free training, and let me help you plan your dream retirement in 2025. Now, back to the video. Another unfortunate consequence of misunderstanding Monte Carlo scores is that it generally causes people to be very conservative with their spending while they're young and healthy, which ends up optimizing for how much money you have at the end of your life rather than spending and enjoying your money while alive, which, to be clear, is actually a fine financial goal to have, but only if that is actually your intentional goal. Now, what becomes clear is that the Monte Carlo score isn't a plan. In the same way that knowing your weight is not a plan to help you lose weight, knowing your Monte Carlo score tells you nothing about your actual plans in retirement. So imagine having a retirement plan that you built yourself or presented to you by your advisor, and you receive this arbitrary score, and then imagine the anxiety that comes with needing to make such a monumental decision, thing like retiring, purely based on some number on a piece of paper. Now, when I say it like that, I actually find it extremely crazy to expect people just like yourself to literally leave your job based on some number on a report. But now imagine that instead you're taught how to actually interpret the Monte Carlo score. Essentially, the probability of failure in the Monte Carlo score tells us how likely it would be to need to make a future spending adjustment. So, for example, on the screen here with Steve and Amanda's case, a 69% probability of success tells me that Amanda and Steve have a 31% likelihood or 31% odds that they would need to make a spending adjustment some point in their plan. And that can be interpreted in two ways. They could have 31% odds they would need to make one large spending adjustment that could right the ship forever, or they could have 31% odds that they would need to make a series of small but sequential adjustments in order to right the ship over time. Now, having that information is better, but even with that interpretation, there is still too little clarity to make a confident retirement decision, in my opinion. Enter Modern Guardrails. Modern Guardrails is a dynamic retirement planning system that guides us in our behaviors through retirement. Now, on the screen here, you can see a software called Income Labs, which is our Modern Guardrails software. Now, in this tool, I've input the exact same information about Steve and Amanda with two exceptions. In Income Labs, we can tell the tool what level of comfort we have or Steve and Amanda would have with a possible future spending adjustment. And you can see that right here. As well as we can also tell the tool how big of a spending adjustment they would be comfortable making. So we could tell it not only the probability or comfort with likelihood of making a spending adjustment, but also how big a spending adjustment Steve and Amanda would be comfortable with. Now, in this particular tool right now, in this particular scenario, I've told Income Labs that Steve and Amanda would be comfortable with a 20% probability of making a spending adjustment in the future. So effectively, this would be like targeting a Monte Carlo score of 80%. I've also told Income Labs that Steve and Amanda would prefer to make small, more frequent spending adjustments because they said it would be less disruptive to their lifestyle rather than making a large, less frequent spending adjustment. Now, specifically, I've told the plan here that they are comfortable with making 5% spending adjustments. As a result, Income Labs generated the following plan for Steve and Amanda. We're going to click in here. Income Labs tells Steve and Amanda that they would be able to take an income right here of $11,500 per month pre-tax or $138,000 per year pre-tax. Now, in exchange, they would need to be comfortable with making a 5% spending reduction or income reduction if their investment balance were to drop by 20%. Now, both viewers of the channel and the hundreds of people I've spoken to in person about this concept have said the same thing. This was exactly the type of plan they're looking for. They didn't want to just be told a binary, that they could either retire or not retire. People wanted to be provided with a framework that helped them understand what to do if things went wrong and how big and how life-changing the adjustments they might be required to make would be. Now, to call back to my earlier healthcare analogy, checking your weight on the scale is an assessment. Checking your Monte Carlo score is also an assessment. It tells you a point-in-time piece of data. However, knowing how many calories to eat per day is a plan. Right? So having modern guardrails that determine your spending and adjustments behaviors is also a plan. You can think of guardrails like being the range of calories that you would need to stay in order to lose weight. And you can think of the downward spending adjustment recommendation like a recommendation for how much additional calories you might need to cut out of your diet if you were to not meet your weight loss objective. Now, as if that weren't enough, an added bonus of modern guardrails is that because guardrails are a dynamic spending strategy, people were frequently surprised as they talked to me and found out that a guardrails plan also allowed for significantly more spending earlier in retirement. So imagine how good it would feel to not only be taught that you have enough money, but to not only be taught how to triage your finances should things go wrong, but to also be taught that you could spend oftentimes 20, 30, or even 40% more money in early retirement by following this dynamic spending strategy. That means more travel to visit your grandkids. That means more lifetime gifts to your kids and loved ones rather than leaving them a pile of money at the end of life. That also means less anxiety about a potential unforeseen home improvement project and less FOMO or fear of missing out. Now it all makes sense why the most common thing that retirees I spoke to wish they'd done sooner was build a guardrails-based retirement plan to supplement their Monte Carlo-based plan. And what continues to amaze me is actually how much permission to both retire and to spend that a simple modern guardrails-based plan can provide. I've watched these plans create a remarkable shift from anxiety about retiring and spending to genuine confidence about how to safely navigate retirement. So that being said, if you'd like to learn more about how we build dynamic retirement plans, you can join me for a free webinar this week where I'll break down exactly how you can plan your dream retirement. Spots are limited, so click the link below to claim your free spot. Thank you as always for your time and attention. See you in the next video.